There's a certain kind of energy that only comes from fire meeting food. It's not just about cooking. It's a performance, a test of skill, a return to something primal. You smell the smoke before you even see the flames, and when you do, the anticipation kicks in. That was the scene at Hank's filling station in Norfolk, where the pitmasters turned a simple evening into a spectacle of open fire cooking. At the center of it all, thick, bone-in, Tomahawk Ribeye Steaks, each one a feast in itself, seared and crackling over an open flame. And standing proudly beside them, beer can chickens, golden skinned, juicy, and infused with just the right hint of smoke. This wasn't a backyard barbecue. It was an art form, perfected by hands that know exactly how to handle the heat, smoke, and time. I've spent years exploring the best of live fire cooking, and I can tell you, this kind of event is where the real flavor happens. It's where the food isn't rushed, where every step is deliberate. From the moment the fire was lit at Hank's, you could tell the night was going to be something special. There's something about watching meat sizzle over an open flame that pulls people in. It's instinctual, like gathering around a campfire. That's the magic of live fire cooking. It's not just about the meal, it's about the experience. Hank's Filling Station has built its reputation on real wood, real smoke, and a commitment to doing things the right way. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just good ingredients, time-honored techniques, and a crew of pitmasters who respect the fire. At this event, they show why that approach makes all the difference. Managing a live fire isn't about tossing food onto a grill and hoping for the best. It's about control. Controlling the flame, the heat, the airflow. It's knowing when to let the fire kiss the meat and when to pull back. Too much flame, and you've got a scorched mess. Not enough, and you miss out on that perfect char that locks in juices and builds deep, smoky flavor. The pitmasters at Hank's handled it like second nature. They moved effortlessly between searing and slow cooking, working the fire with precision. You could see the confidence in the way they flipped the tomahawk steaks at just the right moment, and when they adjusted coals to create the ideal heat zone. It's a craft, one that takes years to perfect, and when you get it right, the results speak for themselves. If there was ever a steak that could stop a conversation mid-sentence, it's the Tomahawk Ribeye. The moment they hit the grill at Hank's, all eyes were on the fire. This wasn't a modest cut meant to be plated with a polite side of asparagus and a wedge of lemon. This was a showstopper, thick as a lumberjack's forearm, with a bone handle that turned each steak into a centerpiece. I've had my fair share of great steaks over the years, but there's something about a tomahawk cooked over open fire that feels different. It's indulgent in the best way, a masterclass in fat, fire, and patience. The key to getting it right is in the balance, searing it hot and fast for that deep, caramelized crust, then easing off and letting the fire do the rest, low and slow. That's exactly what Hank's pitmasters did. Reverse searing was the move of the night. Rather than throwing the steaks directly onto a roaring fire and hoping for the best, they set them up for a slow cook first, letting the meat bathe in smoke and gradually rise to the perfect internal temperature. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for, the final sear. The pitmasters moved the steaks over the hottest part of the fire, searing them until a dark, crackling crust formed, the kind that locks in all the buttery marbling. You could hear the sizzle, smell the fat hitting the coals, feel the warmth radiating from the grill as the aroma drifted through the night air. As each steak was lifted from the fire, the anticipation grew. When it was finally time to carve, the sound of the knife slicing through the crisp crust and into the juicy, marbled center was its own kind of music. This wasn't just a meal. It was an experience, a moment worth savoring. And when the first bite hit, with that deep, smoky char giving way to a melt-in-your-mouth, perfectly medium rare center, it was the kind of steak that lingers in your memory long after the last bite is gone. There's a reason beer can chicken has become a backyard classic. It's the kind of dish that turns heads, not just for the spectacle of the whole bird perched on a can, but for the way it delivers unreal tenderness. Done right, the skin crisps up to a deep golden brown, while the meat stays unbelievably juicy. It's a simple method, but it hangs. The pitmasters took it to another level. This wasn't a throw it on the grill and hope kind of operation. Every step mattered. The seasoning went beyond casual sprinkle. Each chicken was coated inside and out with a blend of spices that worked with the smoke to build layers of flavor. The choice of beer wasn't an afterthought either. A malty brew was the move here, steaming inside the chicken, keeping it moist while adding a subtle depth to the meat. It's a technique that's been around forever, but in the hands of professionals, it turns into something that feels like it belongs in a high-end kitchen rather than a backyard cookout. One of my first experiences in live fire cooking came with the whole chicken on an open flame. I learned quickly that the fire doesn't care about your timeline. It moves at its own pace, and if you fight it, you'll end up with dry, burnt chicken in one spot and undercooked meat in another. It hangs. The pitmasters knew this dance well. They positioned each bird with precision, rotating them just enough to let the heat work evenly. The result? A crisp, crackling skin that gave way to a juicy, fall-off-the-bone tenderness. A dish like this does more than fill your plate. It tells a story. It speaks of slow Sunday afternoons, of backyard traditions passed down through the generations. There's something almost rebellious about it too. Take a humble bird, a can of beer, and a pile of hot embers, and turning them into something that tastes like a celebration. And that's exactly what it was at Hank's. The kind of food that brings people together, where the first bite is met with knowing glances and nods of approval. Live fire cooking is about the show, the sizzle, the dance between heat and patience. It's the kind of experience that pulls people in, keeps them watching, and has them talking long after the last bite. At Hank's filling station, the pitmasters weren't just cooking. They were putting on a performance, and the fire was the star of the night. Every flicker of flame added its own stroke to the masterpiece. The steady roar of burning wood and coals was a constant soundtrack, while the fire cast a golden glow over the grill. The heat radiated like the summer sun, even as the Norfolk evening settled in. When the pitmasters flipped the steaks, the fire answered with a searing applause. Every once in a while, the beer cans in the chickens let out a sizzle and a pop, the steam whispering secrets into the meat. The crowd leaned in closer, drawn to the primal magic of it all. There's something about an open fire that makes people stop what they're doing and just take it in. It's storytelling without words, an ancient connection that doesn't need explanation. People talk about farm-to-table dining, but this was fire-to-table, the kind of cooking that speaks to the senses before a single bite is taken. When the time came for the first tomahawk to be sliced, a hush fell over the group. The pitmaster dragged his blade through the crust, and the steaks separated like warm butter. The juices pooled onto the board, and for a moment, the fire wasn't the hottest thing in the yard. This is what people show up for, not just to eat, but to witness the transformation of raw ingredients into something extraordinary. Every sear, every wisp of smoke, every glistening slice was part of the act. That's the beauty of live fire. It's about more than cooking, more than flavors. It's about creating a moment, something you feel deep down, something you talk about long after the embers have cooled. Again, there's something about the combination of fire, smoke, a perfectly aged meat that makes a meal feel less like dinner and more like an event. That's exactly what happened at Hank's that evening. This wasn't about rushing through a meal, snapping a quick photo, and moving on. It was about slowing down, feeling the warmth of the flames, and watching true craftsmen at work. It was about the way the air smelled of hickory and charred fat, and the way fire licked at thick steaks, and the way the skin of the beer can chicken crackled and split, revealing the juicy perfection underneath. Food is more than just what's on the plate. It's the moment, the people, the stories being told around the fire, and the anticipation that builds as the flames work their magic. That's what made this night at Hank's one to remember. For anyone who calls themselves a true foodie, experiences like this are essential. It's not just about eating well, it's about understanding what makes a meal truly special. When you taste a bite of something cooked over real wood, you're tasting more than flavors. You're tasting time, technique, and the tradition that stretches back centuries. That's the kind of food that stays with you, and it's exactly what you'll find at Hank's Filling Station.
That's it for today's episode of Life in Motion. If you liked this, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram for more real talk on music, food, travel, and baseball. Both links are available in the description below.